Hey everyone, welcome to JMB SOUND. I'm your host Jumi. It's a pleasure to have you here. Yes, I have a haircut. Today, guys, I bring you something that a lot of people have asked me because I have not seen any reviews online, and that is the in-ear monitors from MIPRO or MIPRO or MIPRO, whatever you want to call it, the MIPRO58 RT. They are specially designed for in-ear monitors for musicians, and they operate in the 5.8 gigahertz, just like the X-Vive, the famous ones that are very cheap, and they are super accessible to everyone. I am guilty of having purchased a lot of X-Vive in my time. Since X-Vive cannot scale to larger productions, like sometimes I need 8, 9 mixes, I do prefer MIPRO for this specific reason. Coordination is also easier because I have Ethernet ports at the back. We'll talk about that later. Let's go into the test that I'm gonna perform today. All right, so the MIPRO58 RT is already embedded into my audio rack. As we can see, we have a power button, a monitor, standard guitar instrument jack, whatever, to monitor, and headphone jack. Of course, an independent volume for that monitoring in case it's too hot. We can also see levels, we can see group, channel, ID, what mode it is set on, stereo or dual mono. We can also have a peak and a limiter. Over here, when it says left and right, it says peak, okay, or too low. So that is pretty good. Of course, we have an action button. It will actually look for the receivers and make an update where it is. As you can see, it says fail because I haven't set my receivers to the IR ports. A control wheel here, so we can change parameters, and it also has a click function. But we'll go through this a bit in the future. The important thing is to test the stereo capabilities of the system thanks to the eVerse 8 that I have here that has a stereo in the back. We can see that I have the little MIPRO box connected with a mini jack or 3.5 millimeter. All right, I'm gonna press play, and we can see that we have sound. This is connected via 3.5 millimeters to the stereo in at the back of the eVerse 8. Very, very simple. Now let's go through the features of the receiver box because it's very important to know what is what. We have here an illuminated screen when you press the buttons, so it's great for when it's dark. You always have an illuminated LCD screen so you can know what's happening. We, of course, only have one AF out, which is a 3.5 millimeter, standard for all in-ears in the category of in-ears. We have a volume that actually goes decently loud in your ears. I believe it's rated 120 milliwatts and 16 ohm. That is great because the more you give volume, the more battery you consume. In this case, I think I always drive them pretty much at this level. If you can see over there, it's not max volume. I can still go louder than this, but I usually do not need to. I do drive my in-ear mixes or my mix buses from the X32 relatively loud, but always without clipping. Actually, one of the things that we're gonna see is a group, which is A or B, so two groups. We have channel 1 to 12. So we have 12 possible channels independent from each other, right? In the first group. So I guess we have 24 channels in total. Of course, I also have an RF meter. You can see over there, very, very little. Very little at the top, we can see an RF meter. If I decide to change my channel to channel 5, we can see that the RF signal has gone, and I go back to my channel 6 and we see that it's back on. A volume meter at the front, which is linked to the transmitter. You can see that it's not clipping, but it is close to clipping because I drive them pretty hot. That's not a joke. Besides that, we also have a proprietary battery that comes with the MIPRO. I honestly don't know the rating for these batteries, but they are actually great. These boxes last me no less than 8 hours, turned on at this volume, even playing music or whatever. Easy 8 hours. We performed August 1st. We had the boxes for 4 hours on all the time. with us communicating with each other, with the band members and stuff. I use it to communicate. Yeah, I mean, I only have two bars less, and one of these has only 1 bar left. So, I mean, it depending on how hard you drive the volume knob, you can have them last 8 hours or even more, I'm pretty sure. We had the stereo mode, of course, which is transmitting both channels simultaneously. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna switch to mixed mode, and then I'm gonna press the mode button to confirm, press the mode button once again, and I will have a balance. Play the music, and I go all the way to my right. I have a loss in the left channel, meaning I'm only playing the right channels, right? If I then do the same on the left, I will only have the left channel. Since the mix that I have on the console is different for left channel and right channels, the levels are slightly different. Of course, when playing with a band, this is important because everyone can set their different volumes, and that is independent from each mix, meaning everyone is gonna be happy. And then we have equalizer, which can be a high boost. The equalizer can be flat, so nothing. We can also set it to high boost, low boost, and a low cut. If you don't have a console, assigning a low cut is great, so you have more intelligibility in your ears. Of course, we also have a set and lock. We have the engineer mode again, and then we go back to the ID, group, and channel. They are crazy, crispy, clear audio. Of course, it's the digital signal, so if you go too far away or you have too many brick walls in between, you will have interference. I might run wireless distance test with this one, which should be slightly shorter range because of the frequency, 5.8. I still think they do a great job, but we'll do that later. All right, so we're back at the front, and as I said, we do have a left and right. We can see that the levels are okay, mostly, although a bit low at the beginning. This is only music playing, and of course, if you have a full band and everyone is driving, if you're driving a lot of microphone and a lot of instruments all together and nothing is mastered, you depend on your mixes to never hit the peak. The more you hit the peak, the more distortion you're gonna get. And I have my RF out, which I can, of course, mute. I have the selection, RF out off. If I play my music, click, I have absolutely nothing because the RF out is muted. Select the group and channel, the IR sensor, where you can just communicate to the receiver the frequency it is in. We also have the transmitter ID. I don't get a signal, so if I play music and I change my ID to 40, the RF is still on, but unless I go back to my ID number 5, I don't get any sound. So the ID is also a limiter to see your channel, group, and ID. You have 3 factors that change. So AF in is set to XLR. I think it auto detects if you use a TRS cable or an XLR cable, because you have 2 different inputs. We'll go see the back in a minute. Stereo setup or mono setup. Now it's set, of course, to stereo. If I set it to mono, we'll only have half a channel. We still have both channels transmitting, but they will be independent from each other. You can use the mixed function in the little box to basically have a dual mono setup. A locking function. Engineer mode, that's for engineers when you have an Ethernet cable connected to the back. More stuff, you can save, load presets. Apparently you can also send information to the transmitters. You can also delete, save, put the names on the boxes and stuff like that. You can do all that. Of course, version, exit and save. As you can see, the back of my rack is very complicated because I was a cheap person and didn't get the one that goes out the front, so yeah. But basically, we have here remote function, so you can see 2 Ethernet cables, one in and one out. We also have 2 loop out, so if you want to go to another monitor, you can also do that. And of course, Amphenon or combo jack/XLR inputs for the back, channel 1 and channel 2, right? So it would be left or right, or channel 1 or channel 2, depending on dual mono or stereo. You also have a power in, and I like this power in because it's a center positive 12 to 15 volts. You actually have the chance to choose your voltage. So some specs to take into account is that the frequency range is not the standard 5.8, from 5.725 to 5.850 gigahertz. So that means you can select 12 channels in that frequency band. Of course, you have stereo mono or dual mono, which is what I said before. The fact that you can isolate left and right channels, or just pan left and right on a stereo bus, which is always a good idea. It advertises 100 meters range. I would say it's more like 50 line of sight, a bit like ska. If you had a line of sight, I would definitely say, yeah, 50 meters. I don't think I've ever had it do 100 meters, mostly because most venues I have to walk through walls anyway, and as soon as there's a grate or a brick wall, the 5.8 gigahertz energy is just absorbed. It happens with the X Vibe, it happens, it's the longitude of that frequency is not great for going through solid objects. So bear that in mind, all right? 100 meters in paper, I would say it's more like 50 if I had to give my own opinion. I'm gonna run a quick range test and I'm gonna count my steps. I'm gonna play the music that is going through the speaker, and let's go. I'm gonna go outside through the front door and we'll see if the bricks can stop this in-ear system. Okay, we can see that I'm at 20 meters. The in-ear rack is in that house through a metal grate, and you can see already it's struggling because it's 5.8 gigahertz. It's not super resistant to going through walls. So we have 20 meters through walls. There's also almost like the Shure SLXD, you also have a little station where you can just plug in your the receiver with this battery. You just clock it in. You put a 12 volt source in it and you can charge your transmitters just there, like in the rack. The receivers are super tiny and super light. They feel not robust, but I have seen them fall from heights that I said, oh damn, that must hurt. And yet they are still living. And the fact that it doesn't have exposed antennas, meaning you have less risk of it breaking. So that's a good thing. Technically, a diversity receiver, because you have two little antennas here. And what is diversity? Diversity means that you have two sources that can that can basically switch quickly to avoid random interference from one side or the other. If you're like switching your body from left to right, you can still have one of the antennas that has a clear signal and the other that is covered, and they switch independently, having a bit less interference. It might have issues, I think, with the 5G of your phone. JMB Sound, by the way. Very rarely I hear like a little beep, like a little squeak in the system, but I don't even know if it's on the phone or from the guitar that also has a wireless, right? I cannot blame the system for any interferences whatsoever. I used it for like 40, 50 gigs, zero, and they are still on the same channel. They have not moved. Important thing to know is the price. MIPRO is more like a mid-tier system. So I see it here at Thomann with their own earbuds, and it retails for 500 euros as of today. It's important to note that I have not seen any reviews on the MIPRO58 system, besides the fact that I think the creator, the Asian company that made the MIPRO brand, does videos, but it's not great in English or any other language, so that's why I decided to do a video on this today. Mostly because I love the system. I find it extremely reliable, even though it's not super long range. It's not an Ancient Digital from Shure, of course, but it's also 1/8 of the price of the Shure Ancient Digital, and it suits perfectly for at least what I do, which is 8 mono monitor mixes, in-ear monitor mixes, or 4 stereo monitor mixes. Of course, stereo is always more expensive because you would require 1 transmitter and 1 receiver dedicated to that. And of course, more outputs from your console or your digital interface or whatever you want. So it's always more costly. I don't recommend using one of this as a wireless PA, although you can. I mean, there's no limits to that, but I would recommend it to use it for its intended use, which is in-ear monitoring system. All right, that's it for the MIPRO MI58 RT. Let me know in the comments, what do you think about this system? Have you tried it? I know that not a lot of people have tried it because there has to be with the fact that most people go Sennheiser or Shure or X-Vive now because X-Vive is the cheap alternative, right? There's nothing in between. So the market is kind of open for more of these systems, and we can see it. The Amazon products, the cheaper alternatives for analog systems. If it works for you, will it work in a touring environment? No, it's very probable it will not. LED panels, lights, 2.4 systems all over the place, routers, a lot of people, you know, and these we have tried at festivals, zero problem. As far as my opinion, MIPRO58 RT, is it worth it? 600%. Is it expensive? It is mid-tier. Please let me know down below your questions. If you have any questions, I haven't gone super in detail. I know, I'm sorry. For my use case, I don't even need the features. 40 gigs with the same frequency, no issues. I will see you back in another video. Let me know in the comments below. All right.